There are moments in life when a person is no longer themselves, when pressure, pain, and long-suppressed emotions build up just enough to crack the shell of reason we always believe we control. That is when the devil inside awakens, something raw, impulsive, uncontrollable, the part of us we usually hide, suppress, and deny. And the most terrifying thing is not the outburst itself, but the moment right after, when we realize we have crossed a line we can never step back from. Just like the way a football genius lost himself for a few brief seconds under the weight of the entire world. And when it comes to that devil, the bite of Luis Suárez on Giorgio Chiellini in the summer of 2014 is exactly that kind of moment. But if you think it all began in the 79th minute of the match between Uruguay and Italy, then you have already missed the most important part of the story. Because the story actually began long before that. Suárez was never a normal footballer. He never was. From his earliest days in South America, he carried two extremes within him: a natural-born talent and an almost feral instinct. At Ajax, he scored goals like a machine, but it was also there, in 2010, that he bit Otman Bakal, a moment that stunned Dutch football. He was suspended. He apologized. He promised to change. But 3 years later, in England, wearing a Liverpool shirt, history repeated itself. This time, the victim was Branislav Ivanovic. Once again, the world was shocked. Once again, Suárez was punished. And once again, he stood before the media, head bowed, saying he was sorry. But there was one question no one dared to answer directly. Had he really changed? 2014, the World Cup in Brazil, the biggest stage in football. And Suárez walked into that tournament carrying immense pressure. He had just finished the best season of his career in the Premier League, 31 goals, top scorer, a player almost impossible to stop. But alongside that brilliance, the shadow of his past still lingered. Every time he stepped onto the pitch, it wasn't just fans watching, it was doubt. He said he had matured. He said he had learned to control himself. But the World Cup is not a place for promises. Group D was called the Group of Death. Uruguay, Italy, England. 3 giants, 3 histories, and only 2 could go through. Uruguay started with a shocking loss to Costa Rica. Suárez missed that match due to a knee injury, and immediately the pressure shifted onto him. It was no longer just personal, it was national. Then came the match against England. Suárez returned, and in just 90 minutes, he reminded the world who he was. 2 goals, a cold, precise header, a perfect finish. Uruguay won. Suárez became a hero. But that moment was also the beginning of something darker. Because when you carry the hopes of a nation, you are not allowed to fail. And if you do, the cost is greater than anyone else. The final group match, Uruguay versus Italy. A match for survival. Italy only needed a draw. Uruguay had to win. No room for mistakes, no way back, no calm left. From the very first minutes you could feel it. The tension, the aggression, the pulling, the stares. This was no longer just football. This was war. Suárez moved constantly, but not with his usual sharpness. His touches lacked their natural flow, partly because of his injury, but mostly because of the pressure. Pressure that weighed down his legs, pressure that clouded his mind, pressure that slowly pulls a person away from themselves. Minute 66, the clearest chance of the match. Suárez one-on-one with Gianluigi Buffon. A decisive moment. But Buffon won. It was more than just a save, it was a psychological blow. Suárez stood there, no immediate reaction, no anger, just silence. A quiet frustration, something building inside him. And then, minute 79, a situation that seemed meaningless. No ball, no chance, no danger.
Just Suárez.
And Chiellini. A sudden movement, a quick lunge, and in a split second, Suárez lowered his head and bit. Not a decision, not tactics, not calculation, just instinct. A primitive reaction exploding from deep inside. Chiellini reacted immediately. He grabbed the referee, pointed at his shoulder. The bite marks were clear, but no one saw it. No technology, no intervention. The game went on. Minutes later, Uruguay scored. Italy were eliminated for the second consecutive World Cup at the group stage. And yet, ironically, no one cared about Italy. As soon as the match ended, replays flooded television screens. Social media exploded. Images spread at lightning speed. Analysis, criticism, mockery. From Europe to South America, from journalists to fans, everyone was talking about one thing. Suárez had bitten someone. Not for the first time, but for the third. And this time, on the world's biggest stage. At first, Suárez denied it. In his report to FIFA, he claimed he lost balance and collided with his opponent. He insisted there was no bite, no intention to bite. But the explanation didn't hold. FIFA's disciplinary committee acted quickly. They reviewed the footage, analyzed every angle, and reached a conclusion. The act was deliberate, intentional, and unprovoked. The punishment came swiftly. 9 international matches banned, 4 months suspended from all football-related activities. No training, no stadium access, no participation in any football event. This was not just a punishment, it was exile. The world was divided. Some condemned him, some tried to understand. Some called him insane, some said he needed help. Some saw it as an unforgivable stain. But others saw something else, a man losing control. Years later, Suárez spoke about it. He said he realized immediately after it happened. When Uruguay scored, he didn't celebrate, didn't run, didn't shout.
There was only one thought in his mind.
What have I done? In the dressing room, the atmosphere was strange. Joy mixed with fear. Teammates checked their phones. Everyone knew what was coming. Suárez called his wife. He cried. He denied. He tried to escape, but he couldn't. It was one of the most painful moments of my life. What made the story even more complex was Chiellini's reaction. Years later, he said he didn't hate Suárez. In fact, he admitted he admired his cunning. He called it part of football, a kind of battle, an instinct that, if removed, would make Suárez just another ordinary striker. And that is why this story is never simple. It is not just right or wrong, not just good or bad. It is about the fragile line between genius and chaos. Suárez is one of the greatest strikers in the world. He can score the impossible. He can change a match in seconds. But he is also human, a human with shadows, with things he cannot always control. Moments where reason is not strong enough to hold back instinct. And maybe that is why this moment still lives on today. Not because it was beautiful, not because it was memorable in a good way, but because it was real. A moment where football stopped being a game and became something else. A place where human nature reveals itself completely. No hiding, No control, no perfection. One bite, one moment, one scar in football history. And a reminder that even geniuses can fall to the devil within themselves.